Order! Order! You are an incorrigible delinquent at times. Behave yourself, man!
Prisoners held indefinitely after serving their minimum term or tariff should not have to prove that it is safe to release them. That's according to the new Parole Board Chairman Nick Hardwick. He says various factors make it incredibly difficult for some inmates on imprisonment for public protection sentences to find such proof, and wants new criteria for freeing IPP prisoners in England and Wales. It's effectively the sentence that means someone could be held in jail indefinitely. Well, Sean Lloyd was given an IPP sentence of 2 years and 9 months for 2 street robberies when he was 18. He spent more than 8 years in prison. He told Victoria what it was like not to have a date for release.
Psychological hell to go through that and not know when you're coming out, and to come in with what you say about the courses. Sometimes it's like they're giving you them for the sake of doing them to justify why you're in for so long. They give you courses that you don't really have to do. I've done some courses twice over, and I shouldn't have had to do so many courses, but yeah, it was hell for me personally.
So you're not presumably arguing with the original sentence you got, the minimum sentence you got?
No.
It's the fact that it went on and
yeah,
on and on, and there's no light at the end.
I deserved the prison sentence for what I've done. I done 2 street robberies, but like 9 years of my life, you get me, and what I've witnessed in them 9 years will affect me for life. And
you mean what you witnessed inside?
What I've witnessed inside, I've lost friends, countless friends have like killed themselves, self-harming. They're things that will never go from my mind. So.
And the parole process, can you just give our audience a little bit of an insight into that? What happens? Do you go in a room and there's 3 people behind a desk? Or I've got absolutely no idea.
You will go in a room.
Describe it for us.
You will have 3 judges, you will have probation, offender managers, and certain other people if you've got psychological problems or whatever. But my offender manager, I only met twice. 10 minutes each time, and on my parole document I was fighting basically statistics that said I was an 87% chance of being recalled within 12 months, and I don't know how they could come with that statistic so precise, and I've been out 2.5 years.
How did you get out?
Basically on my 7th parole hearing.
Your 7th?
Yeah, I just told the truth, and I told them that I've had enough of prison, I deserve to be out, I've done all the courses, I cannot do no more, I cannot take no more prison.
Our Home Affairs correspondent Danny Shaw is here with me. How many people are in jail on these indefinite sentences, Danny?
There are over 4,000 at the moment, even though the sentences themselves were abolished in 2012, and around 3,300 are in prison who have served their minimum term, their tariff. And some of those have been held for years longer than their minimum term. Perhaps they were given 2 years or 3 years and they're still in custody 5, 6, 7 or 8 years later. And they're in a sort of catch-22 situation. They have to convince the parole board that it's safe for them to be released, that they don't present a danger. To do that, they have to show that they get on offending behaviour courses, but the longer they're in prison, the more frustrated they become, and the harder it becomes to convince the parole board that it is safe for them to be let out.
It is all about public protection, of course, isn't it? I mean, how are they going to change it and ensure that public protection isn't compromised?
Well, this is a proposal from Nick Hardwick, the head of the parole board at the moment. He wants to sort of turn the test on its head, so the parole board would have to show that they were still dangerous enough to be locked up. So it's putting the onus on the parole board, if you like, to show that they're dangerous, rather than putting the onus on the prisoner to show that they're safe. Now, he believes that would benefit 3 categories of prisoner the most: those on short tariffs who've served many years beyond their tariff, some prisoners who are in prison for longer than they would have got under the maximum sentence for the offence they were convicted of, and also some IPP prisoners who he says are frail and elderly and don't really present any risk. Those are the 3 groups who could be released if these provisions were accepted by the new Justice Secretary Liz Truss.
And I mean, it does seem anachronistic, doesn't it, when the fact is these sentences aren't handed out anymore?
Yes, and the government has replaced them with a sort of a kind of indeterminate sentence light, where the parole board still has to decide if dangerous prisoners can be released, but there is a limit. There's a cut-off point at which point they have to be released into custody. I mean, I should just say, these are controversial proposals, because changing the release test goes to the heart of that question about public protection and safety, and some of these prisoners were convicted of serious offences, including sex offences, violence and robbery. And there may be members of the public who'd be very concerned if they were released.
So effectively, could we see some of the high-profile prisoners in jail who there's sort of been an assumption that they would never come out, ending up being released if these guidelines were changed?
I don't think these sentences were ever imposed on people with the expectation that they would never come out. The expectation was that they would at some point, but they would have to prove that it was safe. But clearly, the idea of the prison gates opening and people convicted of dangerous crimes walking free may alarm some individuals. On the other hand, there is a sense that this is not a sentence that is working as it was originally intended to do.
Thank you very much, Danny. Thank you.
I've been